Hello, it's Louise, Spiral Bright Insight. I'm a galactic and an intuitive astrologer, and I want to do an energy check-in and just explore one of the key alignments that is taking place today. So it's the 24th of March. And checking in energetically, I would say, oh goodness, hard to describe really. We're obviously still in the eclipse portal. This week now is building up to the solar eclipse on Saturday, the 29th of March. There are a few other things going on this week, which let's see, Mercury is going to be sextile Pluto tomorrow at 3 degrees, and then Mars will square Chiron. Venus is moving into Pisces and is going to meet Neptune, and then obviously we've got the eclipse on Saturday, and on Sunday Neptune moves into Aries. So there is a lot of energy building this week without question. Today Mercury retrograde is Cazimi the Sun, so the Sun and the energy and the power and the force of the sun is literally lighting up Mercury, the messenger, and our mind, our understanding, our voice, our ideas, our opinions. And at the same time, we have the first transit of the gene key 17. Now, this is really interesting because, as always, there is huge synergy, huge alignment, loads of connections, and I want to talk about some of those today. But I also want to acknowledge that I put out a video on my channel last night, which was all about the Mercury Cazimi and working with shadow. And thank you very much, Mercury retrograde. I managed somehow to post the unedited version of my video. Now, only a few people saw it, and I was alerted to the fact that there was maybe some parts in that video that I hadn't intended to include by some of the comments, and my instant reaction was to go into panic mode and to take it down. So I have removed it. I did think about putting up the edited version, the polished version, but actually I thought, no, I'll come on and I'll do a new one, because things always happen for a reason. And a lot of what I was talking about in that video has actually come back almost to, we might say haunt me. I'm going to say bite me on the bum, because I was talking about shadow and sitting with your shadow and sitting with all the ugly, uncomfortable feelings that your shadow will bring to you. And that has actually happened. The universe always delivers, and I have had as a fallout for what was a completely innocent mistake, the one or two of the comments that were left on in relation to the video that I shared, I instantly brought up huge amounts of my own shadow, which I am still working with. But I also see, and this kind of relates to the gene key that we're working in, and the fact that this is just sort of being activated today is always just so timely. I can see that there is always a bigger picture, and we are working with, we've still got the supergalactic center in operation, and particularly today, supergalactic center is at 2 degrees of Libra, and the Sun and Mercury are at 4 degrees of Libra. So Mercury's going to go back and oppose the supergalactic center this week as well. And I talked about in my last video about the supergalactic center being like a massive cosmic mirror, and sort of pointing out that there will always be people and situations and events that come along to shine a light on the parts of ourselves that we are not always able to see for ourselves. And it can act as a trigger, and often triggers are the way in which we are forced to deal with something. It's like the star Acumen that I talked about at 29 degrees of Sagittarius, which is still squaring Neptune. Often things have to hurt a little bit, or wound you, or sting you, or bite you in some way for you to pay attention, because otherwise it's very easy, especially when it's shadow, to carry on and just ignore it. And that was some of what I was talking about in my video. But let's get back to Mercury Cazimi first of all, because Mercury is in retrograde, being literally blown up, lit up, spotlighted by the sun today, and this is at 4 degrees of Aries. So whenever the sun is Cazimi, a planet, it literally almost overtakes the energy of that planet. But with Mercury in retrograde in Aries, Mercury is on a mission to go within. This is like the hero's journey in so many ways. This is about going deep inside into the self to get a new, or to retrieve a new level of understanding and of wisdom that relates to the self. And this is also about searching for information and wisdom that is locked deep within the self. And for me, because this is in Aries and we're moving back towards the 0 degree point, which is where Neptune is going to come into on Sunday for the first time in over 160 years. So that is a massive, massive astrological event for us all. Because Mercury is moving back towards the very early degrees, or the very beginning of Aries, which is the beginning of all, this is the 0 point. I'm getting a really strong sense that we are going back to retrieve ancient wisdom, ancient information and understanding that has always been in us, within us. It's always been part of us. It feels very primordial. It feels as if it has been there from the very start, but it hasn't been accessible. Or if it has been locked away, or it has almost been beaten out of us. It's been repressed. It has been disconnected or turned off. And I feel very strongly that this whole Venus and Mercury retrograde in the middle of eclipse portal is very much about going back to retrieve and to reclaim something that we have either disassociated from, disconnected from, turned away from, or had taken from us. So that for a starter feels really, really profound. But what is also coming up, so again, it's going to be interesting to see what does come to light over the coming days. And I also yesterday was talking about the fact that as the information came out about what lies beneath the pyramids in Egypt, that coincided with Mercury coming into square with the Sphinx in Capricorn, which again feels pretty timely and very aligned in terms of the energies, because obviously Mercury was exposing something that perhaps the Sphinx had been holding, as a secret over eons of time. And Capricorn, of course, is about the bones. This is about very ancient energy that can take so long, can take lifetimes to really build up to. So the fact that Mercury was squaring the Sphinx around about the time when all the information came out, and I haven't actually had the chance to look at that yet, feels really very aligned and very relevant. So Mercury Cazimi, obviously Mercury is in retrograde, we've talked about that already, and the sun coming along is really going to highlight any shadows that Mercury might be concealing, either consciously or unconsciously. Often we conceal and bury shadow without actually being aware of it. And when I talk about shadow, I talk about all the parts of ourselves, because we are in Aries, so this is about the self, all the parts of the self that we just do not want to look at. And why would we? Anything that is going to make us feel uncomfortable or painful or wound us is something that we just don't want to look at. And we are brought up to be told, don't go into the dark. The dark is scary. The dark is dangerous. Don't look at the shadow, that it's evil. And there's just so much sort of, discouragement to really look at the shadow and to look at what lies hidden. But actually what I am shown time and time again, and I read a post yesterday which really validated this even more for me, is that the gold lies in the shadow. And if we have the strength and the courage to sit with our shadow side, our shadow aspects, the parts that we have hidden away, then this is where the gifts lie. This is where the gold lies, and this is where we're able to really I don't know, practice pure alchemy is kind of what comes through. This is about being able to sit with the shadow, to embrace it, to see it as part of the self, not something to be rejected or disconnected from or separated from, but to bring it in. And as we do that and we see that it's part of the self and we can love it as part of the self, it becomes integrated, and that brings us back to wholeness. So if there are things coming up this week, and my feeling is that there are going to be, and I can say personally it is happening for me, if there are elements of your shadow, and what when I say aspects of your shadow, what I mean is all those parts of you, those emotions in particular that you have not wanted to look at because they make you feel yucky. You know, this is the self-loathing, this is the self-hate, this is the shame, the guilt, the disgust, the anger, the humiliation, the self-judgment, all that sort of all those emotions, which from a human perspective, we consider to be negative. We consider them to be bad, not nice, uncomfortable, because they make us uncomfortable. But from Source's perspective, they are just energy in motion. Emotion is energy in motion, and it is only the human mind and the human brain that sort of attaches a label or categorizes it. From a kind of galactic, cosmic, universal perspective, from Source perspective, all emotions are, you know, to be felt. They are to be processed, they are to be integrated, they are to be experienced, and it is just us who decides that maybe they're bad or they're good. And we don't have a problem processing and dealing and integrating the good emotions, the things that make happy, that us happy, that elevate us, that give us a joy. You know, we're more than happy to go there, but we often kind of move away from or turn our back on or just don't even want to look at the things that make us feel uncomfortable. But actually, we're here to experience it all, and we are experienced to feel it all. And we, as part of that, we have to sit with and experience and feel and recognize our shadow, because for all the time that we don't, we are disconnecting from a part of ourselves. And this whole process of raising our consciousness, of ascending, you know, coming into the higher version of ourselves, is all about finding our way home to the self, to the wholeness of the self. And shadow work is a huge aspect of that. So what I would say, that, you know, if there are emotions coming up at the moment, and like I said, I feel that that is going to be a big part of this transit with Mercury Cazimi, the sun, and it's all coming from within. You know, this is stuff that we have buried, that we've sort of hidden away, we've pushed down, we've put a lid on it because we just don't want to deal with it. And this is also stuff that goes back over many, many lifetimes. It is not just about this lifetime. So, you know, you can be forgiven if the stuff coming up that relates to, I don't know, eons ago. Yes, it's time to deal with it and process it in this lifetime, but you don't have to attach judgment to it, because it's just something that is coming up to be cleared, to be seen, to be healed, and to be integrated. And it's the integration that is the important part. So if things are coming up for you, it is about being able to sit with it, to just be present and to allow it to come in, rather than trying to look away and sort of sending it away. That is rejecting a part of yourself when you do that. And this is a lesson that I've learned quite a few times over the past couple of years. It is about bringing it in and just sitting with it and allowing it to come forward, and almost asking, what are you here to teach me? What are you here to show me? Which part of myself do you belong to? And as you do that, you're going to start to see, hopefully, and this has been my experience, that actually nothing is as bad as we attach, as we, make it out to be. Nothing. We have judgments, we build judgments, we have opinions about things, and often our opinion of something is not actually the truth of what it is. So we may judge or have an opinion of what we deem our shadow to be, but when we actually look at it straight in the face and we sit with it and we almost interact with it and allow it to talk and communicate and just connect with us, we're going to see that it is not as bad as we thought. And we're actually going to see that we may be able to love it and to accept it, even the really bad stuff. And as we do that, it almost, for me, and again, this has happened on a number of occasions, the point where that shadow comes in and starts and reconnects and realigned or retrieved, the point at which that happens, the sense of release and relief is overwhelming, because that shadow turns into light. And it is the light that just lifts you up and sets you free. So I would invite you, if there is stuff coming up for you, and it might be something really tiny that triggers you and your reaction seems completely like out of control and totally over the top, then I would invite you to really just try sitting with it and really ask, why am I reacting to this? Why am I feeling like this? What is this all about? Because you might find that beneath your reaction to something that is happening, that there is something a lot bigger that is really seeking to come back. And it is about bringing back all those lost parts of the self, so that we can feel whole, so that we can, during this Mercury retrograde in Aries, during this Venus retrograde in Aries, we can go back and reclaim all those lost parts of the self. So shadow work is not for the faint of heart. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of guts. And, I would say don't do it if you don't feel that you are in a safe space. And, often it's helpful to have support from people around you, if you are going through something. But I have also, I'm getting the message really strongly to share that it is by doing the shadow work that we find the gold, because we unlock the light that is within, and we bring the shadow, which is only an aspect of light, it's just a different expression of light, we also bring that in, and we then create this sense of wholeness, because there's no longer parts of us that we have abandoned, rejected, or that are missing, or that even have been taken from us, because often we will allow people to take parts of ourselves because we're just not ready to bring them back in. And I talked about that in my Venus video. So what's really interesting is that with Gene Key 17, we are working with the Eye of Grace, which is really, really beautiful. And the shadow of Gene Key 17 is opinion and having judgment. And this could be about the self. And more often than not, we do have opinions about the self, which aren't always rooted in truth. It's very easy to have an opinion about the self. It's also very easy to have an opinion and want to share an opinion about someone or something else that is external. But often that is just a reflection of what is going on within the self that we're not able to connect to and we're not able to see. We need other people to reflect that back to us. The shadow of the Gene Key 17 is about comparison. It is about competition. It is about judgment, and it is that the opinion, the judgment, the comparison, the competition that creates the division in our world. And this is a shadow that, with the rise of social media over the last decade, we have had to really work with this, and we see it everywhere, because it's very easy to jump on and to give your opinion about something from behind a screen. They often call them like keyboard warriors, don't they? And that's kind of in a more positive expression. But it's easy to send an email or comment on a post or whatever, and not really think through why you are sharing that opinion. And why you are standing in that place of judgment. So the gift of Gene Key 17 is farsightedness. So being able to see the whole picture, see the whole matrix, not kind of being sucked into a side, not really taking an opinion either of your own opinion or other people's opinions too seriously, being able to see, bring humor into it and bring lightness into it, and understanding that anybody's opinion or your own opinion is never the full story. Your truth is not going to be my truth, and the next person's truth will be different again. It is not about sticking to and being attached to one sense, one belief, one mindset, one story, but being able to see that this is just a whole dance. There are so many different energies and beliefs and ideas that kind of make up the whole story, and that there are always different perspectives, and that there's not one perspective is not necessarily right or wrong. It just is. So it's about freeing yourself from the opinion, from the judgment. And then the Siddhi is omniscience, and that is really the all-seeing eye that I've talked about through, the energy of Etemen in Thuban, Polaris, being able to take that center spot and to just be able to see everything and almost to feel it, to know the truth of everything, seeing all that is coming from the heart space rather than the mind. And Mercury retrograde, I think, is really helping us to transform that, because we do get stuck in the mind, we do get stuck in the head, ideas, stories, words, opinions. It's all noise, whereas when we come into the heart space, we can come into that stillness and we can feel the truth of who we are without needing to process it. So it's about, having the ability to see beyond any boundaries, see beyond any judgment, to recognize that, there is perfection in everything that happens. And again, it is about seeing that, we are in this giant mirror. The universe is mirroring everything back to us. And so it's about knowing that what you are putting out, what you are sharing, is going to uplift others rather than drag them down. So this is it just feels so apt to be working with this gene key at this time, and to be able to really go in. So the Mercury Cazimi today is really helping to shine a light on the truth of who we are at an individual level, to know the self at a much deeper level. And this is going to continue as Mercury moves back to 0 degrees of Aries, where he will sit at the solar eclipse on Saturday. Then he's going to move back into the late degrees of Pisces, meet Neptune, meet the North Node, and following in the steps of Venus before he then turns direct. So this is about knowing that we have to come in at this time. We have to feel everything. We have to know everything. We have to recognize, accept, embrace, and integrate everything, because it is all inside of us. And this is about, I've talked about this before. I think I used this as one of my straplines for my videos, but the truth is that to be able to get out and to experience that freedom that we're all seeking, we have to go in. We have to go in to come out. And of course, as Mercury is moving back towards the early degrees of Aries, Mercury is being activated with the Pegasus, or by the Pegasus energy. So this really is helping to free those chains that have bound us. And as I've said earlier on, this is very ancient. This is primordial. This is, going back over so many ages and times and timelines that, it's really hard to pinpoint, but it feels ancient. It feels primordial. And it feels that we are going back now at this time to reclaim a truth of who we are that is going to change everything. So as Mercury moves to sextile Pluto tomorrow, there's a chance to use this information, work with the shadow, particularly because Pluto is about shadow, to get the deepest transformation. And as we transform at an individual level, Pluto is reminding us, as he sits in Aquarius, that this is collective work. So as we work on our own shadow, we are clearing, we are integrating, and we are setting free the shadow of the collective. So I think that is something that we really must always be mindful of, because it is part of our service. This is part of the light workers path, and it does take courage. It's not for the faint of heart. I think I forgot to say about the energy check-in, because I kind of got sidetracked or swept into what I was talking about. But I would say my experience is at this time that there are huge amounts of upgrades, huge amounts of light coming into our planet and into our experience. And this is creating a lot of, it's very destabilizing. It is shaking things up. We are being supercharged. It's like being plugged into a socket, which has, it's at a different voltage. And it is hard from a physical level and from a mental level as well to really process it and to be able to integrate it. And I ended up going to the allotment yesterday. In hindsight, It was a mistake to do digging. I'm now suffering. My back's quite sore. But I needed to ground my energy. And I think that is the key for this week in particular, because the energies are so heightened. And of course, as the voltages increase and the energies rise, and things, we're getting shaken up, and our cells are starting to vibrate at a new level, and that feels uncomfortable. It can feel scary, it can feel overwhelming. So be mindful of that. Try and find the points of stillness. Try and come into places where you can ground, where you can center yourself. And don't get the other thing that I noticed yesterday in particular was, I try and avoid the more negative, this is me being judgmental, stories, themes in social media. I have to be on social media because it's part of my work. But I do try and avoid getting dragged into too many rabbit holes where we can go down into more of the dark side of our reality and of humanity. But equally, I found that yesterday, I was getting drawn into the more positive side and the excitement and all the findings and the disclosure, and everybody like going, oh yeah, this is it. This is amazing. We're here. It's all happening. And I got pulled off into that direction. And I found that destabilized my energy almost as much as going into the darker side. So it is about staying centered, not getting dragged into having an awareness for sure, and there's, for me, I have to be aware. I feel I have to know about what is going on from all sides, but it is about not getting dragged into those heightened states, because we would judge them to be a heightened state of joy and excitement and anticipation, and a heightened state of depression and and doom and gloom. But actually, just coming back to, from a universal cosmic perspective, there is no judgment, there is no polarity. It just is, it is emotion. So it's about trying to allow those emotions to move through you. Don't get attached to them. Don't allow them to get stuck or blocked, certainly not buried, because that is going to cause huge problems. It is about allowing things that come up, whether it's excitement, whether it's, fear, whether it's, anticipation, doom, gloom, despair, whatever, joy, optimism, hope, just allow it to keep flowing at this time, because that is what feels really important. We are being upgraded. We are having new gifts online. We are, things are happening very, very quickly. It's hard to keep up. Things are just like, I feel like I wake up each day and I'm almost a new version of the person that I was the day before. And I don't have time to integrate that before something else is coming in. And it's exhilarating. I feel like I'm on the ride of my life. I feel that speed, everything is sped up like beyond. It's really hard to really get a grasp or grip on what is going on. But again, that is the acceleration. We're in the quickening, and things are just going at lightning speed. It's going to be, I would say, quite overwhelming what is coming up over the next few weeks, whether that's information in the, on the main stage, on the world stage, whatever, whether that is stuff that is coming from within. In actual fact, it's all the same. Everything is just a reflection, is what I'm getting. So it is about having the courage and the strength and the presence to be able just to navigate that, and don't get, completely sucked in. Just stay at that center point. Allow things to come in, if they need to be integrated, then that's part of the role. But also, don't get too caught up in the drama, because that is just a distraction from the work that we are here to do. So I hope you have found that interesting. I imagine that, I know that what has come through this morning does have bearing and does repeat some of what was in the video that I took down, and I'm sorry for anybody who was watching that and it suddenly disappeared, but as things are changing so quickly, and it was obviously meant to happen. I'm not going to go into that self-judgment and that critical state, which would kind of be my default setting. I'm going to trust that it happened for a reason. What's come through in this video needs to be shared, and again, I trust that. And thank you to everybody for watching my content and for commenting and for yeah, just sharing your thoughts, your ideas, your experiences, because it's really important. You know, people do read the comments, and I know it helps, and it certainly helps me. So just a reminder, if you want to find out more about my work, my website is spiralbright.co.uk. I'm working on, I would say, for my extended quantum soul readings now, I am working on a sort of 9 to 10 week lead time. So bear that in mind if you've been thinking of booking a reading. And yeah, sign up for my my mailing list if you are not already on that, because I'm going to be sending out a newsletter about what is coming up in April. Hopefully at the weekend. So yeah, as always, thank you so much. I really value this opportunity, this platform to be able to come on and share what I am learning, what is coming through to me, what is lighting me up, and what is kind of help guiding and showing me the way. So I trust that by doing that, I am also helping you. So sending lots of love, and have an amazing week.